Kareem Al-Sayeed, a powerful Dubai property developer, and Emily Carter, a young American teacher, looked like the perfect couple on their lavish wedding day. Yet just days later, their dream honeymoon in Zanzibar ended in shocking tragedy when Emily was found brutally beaten to death inside their luxury villa. Kareem Al-Sayeed was a man whose name carried weight in Dubai. At just 35, he had built a fortune through luxury real estate, creating towering skyscrapers and lavish villas that became the playgrounds of the wealthy. His success made him the center of attention at elite parties and business gatherings, but his personal life remained largely private. That changed when he crossed paths with Emily Carter, a young schoolteacher from Boston who had traveled to London for a cultural exchange program. Their worlds could not have been more different. His was filled with wealth and influence, while hers revolved around books, classrooms, and modest dreams. Yet, something about their meeting sparked a connection. Kareem was drawn to Emily's simplicity and warmth, qualities rarely found in his high society circle. Emily, on the other hand, was dazzled by his charm and generosity. Their romance unfolded quickly. Within months, Emily had left behind her teaching job and moved to Dubai, where Kareem introduced her to a lifestyle she had never imagined. Designer dresses, luxury cars, and penthouse dinners became part of her new reality. While friends admired the fairy tale, some whispered that Emily seemed overwhelmed by the pace of it all. Still, when Kareem proposed under the glittering lights of the Burj Khalifa, she said yes without hesitation. The wedding itself was nothing short of extravagant. Held at one of Dubai's most prestigious hotels, it brought together business moguls, foreign dignitaries, and celebrities. Golden chandeliers lit up the ballroom, while tables overflowed with exotic flowers and gourmet dishes. Emily, dressed in a gown worth more than her annual salary back home, looked like she had stepped into a dream. Cameras captured their smiles, their promises, and the beginning of what everyone believed was a perfect love story. After the whirlwind wedding, Kareem spared no expense in planning the perfect honeymoon. He chose Zanzibar, an island known for its white sand beaches, spice farms, and turquoise waters that stretched endlessly to the horizon. For Emily, it was the trip of a lifetime. She had always dreamed of exploring the world, and now she was stepping into what felt like a living postcard. The couple checked into a secluded five-star resort that offered complete privacy. Their villas stood on the edge of the ocean, with glass walls opening to a private infinity pool and a path that led directly to the beach. To outsiders, it looked like paradise carved just for them. In the first days, everything seemed picture-perfect. Emily filled her phone with photos of sunsets melting into the sea, plates of tropical fruits, and the villa's stunning design. She posted cheerful captions, calling the trip a fairy tale honeymoon, and tagging her location with playful emojis. Guests at the resort remembered seeing her laughing by the pool, her hand always wrapped in Kareem's as they strolled along the shore. Staff noted how polite she was, tipping generously and smiling warmly at everyone she met. Kareem, ever the image of sophistication, appeared protective and attentive, arranging private boat trips and candlelit dinners on the beach. At night, the villa came alive with glowing lanterns and the sound of waves crashing just steps away. Emily described the moments to her friends back home as heaven on earth, unaware of the storm building beneath the surface. To those watching, it looked like a marriage built on love and happiness. But behind closed doors, the cracks were beginning to show, subtle and silent, hidden by the beauty of their surroundings. The beauty of Zanzibar could not hide the quiet tensions that began to surface between Kareem and Emily. To outsiders, they still looked like the perfect couple, but small details told another story. Staff noticed how Kareem often kept his phone close, answering urgent calls about his business empire, even during romantic dinners. Emily would sit silently, her smile fading as he barked instructions to his team. What had once seemed like confidence now looked like dominance. Back in Dubai, whispers about Kareem's temper were well known. Former employees spoke of sudden outbursts and a need to control every situation. He carried this same attitude into his marriage. Emily, who had grown up in a quiet American suburb, was unaccustomed to the pressure of living under constant scrutiny. Friends recalled her confessing doubts before the wedding, saying she sometimes felt suffocated by his expectations. Yet she brushed those worries aside, convincing herself that love was worth the risk. In Zanzibar, those concerns grew harder to ignore. Small disagreements about daily plans escalated quickly. Kareem wanted schedules, reservations, and order, while Emily longed for spontaneity, wandering through spice markets or chatting with locals. His controlling nature clashed with her free spirit. Guests at the resort recalled brief flashes of unease, moments when Emily seemed withdrawn after Kareem had spoken sharply to her. Behind the glamorous photographs Emily posted, she was battling uncertainty. She wondered if she had rushed into a life she barely understood, one that demanded constant sacrifice of her independence. The man who had once seemed protective now felt overbearing, and the paradise around her only highlighted the loneliness creeping in. What looked like the perfect honeymoon was quietly unraveling, piece by piece, with no one fully aware of the darkness that lay ahead. On the third evening of their honeymoon, the atmosphere in the villa shifted. What had begun as a romantic getaway was quickly turning into a prison of tension. Guests nearby later remembered hearing unusual sounds coming from Kareem and Emily's suite. Raised voices, hurried footsteps, and then a sudden silence broken by heavy thuds against the walls. At first, most assumed it was a lover's quarrel, the kind of argument couples have when emotions run high. But as the night dragged on, the noises grew more disturbing, until the resort staff could no longer ignore them. Kareem emerged the next morning looking exhausted yet composed, telling staff that his wife was not feeling well and needed rest. His tone was dismissive, as though their concern was unnecessary. He insisted on privacy, making it clear that no one should disturb her. Emily's absence at breakfast caught the attention of other guests. She had been so lively and present during the first few days, always chatting with those around her, and her sudden disappearance felt unusual. Some speculated that she might be sick from the food or simply exhausted from travel. Still, there was a quiet unease that lingered in the air. Later that day, when staff checked on the couple's villa, Kareem once again brushed them away, claiming Emily was sleeping. He carried himself with confidence, but there was a strange edge to his manner, a tension that made the staff uneasy. Emily's social media, usually updated with snapshots of the island, had gone silent. No new photos, no cheerful captions. The cheerful honeymoon glow had dimmed, replaced by unanswered questions. To those watching from the outside, it was the first real sign that paradise was beginning to collapse, and something darker was unfolding inside the villa's closed doors. When the villa staff finally entered later that afternoon, the scene inside was nothing like the dreamlike images Emily had once shared. The air felt heavy, the silence unsettling. On the cool marble floor lay Emily, her body lifeless, her skin pale against the darkened tiles. She was dressed in a silk nightgown, now torn and stained, her hair tangled as if she had struggled. Bruises marked her arms and neck, and the position of her body suggested she had not collapsed peacefully. It was immediately clear that what had happened was not an accident. The staff rushed out in shock, alerting resort security and local authorities. Word spread quickly among the guests, sending ripples of fear and disbelief across the resort. This was supposed to be a place of serenity, yet within its walls, a brutal tragedy had taken place. The villa, once admired for its beauty, was now sealed off with yellow tape as investigators arrived. Cameras flashed, police moved swiftly, and whispers among onlookers grew into frantic speculation. Kareem was taken into custody almost immediately. He appeared calm but distant, offering little reaction as police led him away. To the staff, his composure seemed unnerving, as if he had already rehearsed the role he would play. He claimed Emily had fallen and struck her head during the night, but the investigators were unconvinced. The blood patterns on the floor, the severity of her injuries, and the signs of prolonged violence told a different story. For many at the resort, the shock was overwhelming. Just days earlier, They had seen the couple laughing by the pool, embracing at dinner, smiling for photos against the golden sunset. Now, the fairy tale image was shattered, replaced by the grim reality of a young bride dead in paradise. At the police station, Kareem repeated his story with the same steady tone, insisting that Emily had slipped in the bathroom during the night. He claimed he had tried to help her, but by the time he realized the severity of her injuries, it was too late. To those listening, the explanation seemed rehearsed, almost too polished. Forensic investigators wasted no time in examining the villa. What they found quickly dismantled Kareem's version of events. Blood was not only on the bathroom floor, but also smeared across the bedroom walls and furniture, suggesting a violent struggle. Emily's injuries were not consistent with a simple fall. Multiple fractures, defensive wounds on her hands, and deep bruises on her torso indicated she had been beaten repeatedly. The patterns of the marks told a clear story. This was no accident. The brutality was deliberate. Authorities confronted Kareem with the evidence, but he did not falter. He maintained his calm exterior, stating that Emily was fragile, that she often fainted, and that investigators were exaggerating. His composed demeanor unsettled those around him, as if he was detached from the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Emily's body was taken for autopsy, and the results confirmed the suspicions. Cause of death: blunt force trauma from a sustained assault. News of the case began to spread across Zanzibar, reaching tourists and locals alike. Whispers of a wealthy Dubai tycoon accused of killing his American bride turned into a storm of gossip. The idyllic island setting now stood as the backdrop to a grim tale of violence. What Kareem had hoped to dismiss as a tragic accident was unraveling into undeniable proof of murder, and the façade of control he clung to was beginning to crack under the weight of evidence. As investigators delved deeper into Kareem's life, the image of a devoted husband began to unravel. Bank records revealed mounting financial pressure within his real estate empire. Several of his luxury projects in Dubai were stalled, investors were demanding returns, and creditors were circling. The polished exterior of wealth hid a crumbling foundation. What appeared on the surface as endless affluence was in truth a carefully maintained illusion, held together by risky loans and silent desperation. The most alarming discovery was a life insurance policy Kareem had arranged for Emily only weeks before their wedding. The payout was in the millions, with Kareem listed as the sole beneficiary. To investigators, this was no coincidence. The timeline suggested a chilling possibility, that Emily's marriage had been less about love and more about profit. The thought of a man orchestrating such a calculated plan during what should have been the happiest time of his life sent shivers through even the most experienced officers. Interviews with Emily's friends painted an equally troubling picture. Some recalled her admitting that Kareem was controlling, though she had brushed it off as cultural differences. Others said she seemed nervous in the weeks before the wedding, yet insisted she was simply overwhelmed by the grandeur of her new life. To those friends, her hesitation now seemed like a warning sign no one fully recognized. The pieces were beginning to fit together. Kareem was not just a husband who lost control in a heated moment. He appeared to be a man who had carefully positioned himself to benefit from tragedy. For prosecutors, the motive was clear. Emily's death was not born of sudden rage, but of cold calculation, with greed and desperation lurking behind the mask of romance. The case quickly moved beyond the borders of Zanzibar, igniting headlines across the globe. Newspapers from New York to London splashed photographs of the smiling couple on their wedding day, beside grim reports of Emily's death. The story had all the elements that gripped the public: wealth, power, beauty, and betrayal in a paradise setting. For many, the idea that a glamorous honeymoon could end in such brutality was both shocking and captivating. In Dubai, Kareem's empire began to collapse under the weight of scandal. Investors withdrew from his projects, and his once loyal business partners distanced themselves. Outside his company's headquarters, protesters gathered with signs demanding justice for Emily. Some shouted that money could not buy innocence, while others accused him of using his wealth to manipulate the truth. The man once admired for his towering skyscrapers was now branded a villain, his reputation reduced to rubble overnight. In the United States, Emily's family became the face of the campaign for justice. Tearful interviews on national television showed them describing Emily as a bright, loving woman whose life had been stolen. They called for transparency in the trial and warned against the influence Kareem's fortune might have on the outcome. Public sympathy swelled, and the case transformed into a symbol of young women falling prey to powerful men who believe themselves untouchable. Social media amplified the outrage. Hashtags demanding #justice for Emily trended for weeks, with thousands sharing their anger and sorrow. Journalists dug into Kareem's past, uncovering rumors of failed relationships and accusations of aggression that had once been buried by wealth and status. The global spotlight was relentless. What began as whispers in a luxury resort had now exploded into an international scandal, ensuring that every detail of the trial would be scrutinized by the world. The trial in Zanzibar drew unprecedented attention, with reporters from around the world filling the courtroom each day. The air was heavy with tension as prosecutors laid out their case, step by step, painting a chilling picture of Emily's final hours. Photographs of the villa were displayed, showing bloodstains on the marble floor and walls. Forensic experts described the injuries in detail, their testimonies leaving no doubt that Emily's death was the result of sustained violence. Each piece of evidence chipped away at Kareem's claim of an accidental fall. Witnesses were called, including hotel staff who recalled Kareem's dismissive behavior the morning after Emily vanished from sight. They spoke of how he had insisted on privacy, blocking attempts to check on her. Their accounts matched the timeline of events, adding weight to the prosecution's argument. Financial experts testified about Kareem's failing business ventures and a suspiciously timed life insurance policy, suggesting a deliberate plan rather than a tragic accident. The defense countered with a different story, portraying Kareem as a loving husband wrongly accused in a foreign country eager to make an example of him. They suggested Emily had been fragile, prone to fainting spells, and that the investigators had misinterpreted the evidence. Kareem sat quietly through most of the proceedings, his expression calm and unreadable, though at times he scribbled notes to his lawyers with controlled precision. For Emily's family, the trial was excruciating. Sitting in the front row, they listened as her final moments were dissected and analyzed. Every detail was a wound reopened, yet they remained resolute, their presence a constant reminder of what was at stake. The battle inside the courtroom became more than a legal fight. It was a clash between truth and manipulation, with the world watching closely. When the verdict was finally read, the courtroom fell silent. Kareem Al-Sayeed, once a celebrated figure in Dubai's elite circles, was declared guilty of murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, to be served in Zanzibar, far from the skyscrapers and luxury that had once defined his existence. For the first time, his calm exterior cracked. His shoulders slumped as guards led him away, the reality of his downfall settling in. The man who had built empires of glass and steel now faced a future of confinement behind concrete walls. Emily's family wept quietly, holding one another as the judgment was delivered. Their fight for justice had been long and painful, but the outcome brought a measure of closure. Emily's body was returned to Boston, where a small funeral was held in her hometown church. Friends, neighbors, and former students gathered to honor her memory, placing white lilies on her coffin and remembering her for her warmth, kindness, and laughter. What was once a story of romance had ended as a cautionary tale etched in tragedy. International media reported the sentencing widely, with headlines declaring that justice had been served. Yet beyond the courtroom, the case continued to stir debate. Some saw Kareem as a symbol of unchecked power and greed, while others viewed Emily as a reminder of how easily love can mask danger. Documentaries, articles, and opinion pieces kept her story alive, ensuring it would not be forgotten. In Zanzibar, the villa where the tragedy unfolded was left abandoned, its beauty overshadowed by the memory of violence. Tourists passed it with hushed whispers, a grim reminder that even in paradise, darkness can take root. The fairy tale had ended, but the warning it carried would echo far longer than the waves that once surrounded it.